and welcome to Business Line. 4 months after the terror attacks in Paris, another European city became a target of deadly bomb blast. The capital of the European Union was attacked just before the Easter holiday, at a time when traditionally people travel, taking advantage of the long weekend break. After the attacks on the 22nd of March, many of those probably changed their plans. Before checking out the possible impact on tourism, we look at life in Brussels, home to the European Commission, the European Parliament and other institutions. The city and its people have been trying to return to normal, or rather to a new normal.
Belgium remains on high alert following the attacks. Police and soldiers stop and check vehicles as a Europe-wide hunt for suspects continues. The Belgian Prime Minister's office and official residence were apparently possible targets, with photographs and a floor plan discovered on a discarded laptop that belonged to one of the bombers. Security has also been increased at the country's nuclear facilities. Some workers had their security passes revoked, and reportedly quick response military teams are now patrolling nuclear plants and research centres. There have been a number of arrests in Belgium, as well as the Netherlands, Italy and France, as part of the investigations into jihadist networks. As Brussels mourns the victims and struggles to get back on its feet, and amid accusations that the authorities missed chances to prevent the attacks, the city's residents remain nervous.
All the police force and the military being on the streets is not that reassuring. And actually, I just noticed this is the first time I take the metro since the attacks, and it made me feel really weird. And imagining that it was on the same line.
The atmosphere is really strange. I mean, especially in the metro, it's like really silent and everything. But it's going better, really, day after day.
Speaking of what happened in Brussels, it's very hard to avoid the comparison to the November attacks in Paris. For tourism, there is a significant difference in these two cases. Compared with Paris, Brussels is less of a tourist destination. But the EU capital is an important transport hub and a key overnight spot for business travellers. And these were the air passengers who were specifically targeted.
Barely recognisable. These new images taken a day after the terror attacks at Brussels airport. Bosses now say it will take months to get the busy transport hub back to full speed. It was hoped that some services could resume today, but the airport will remain closed. Staff have been back at work testing out temporary check-in arrangements set up in marquees to bypass the badly damaged area of the terminal building.
Wel, het gaat om heel praktische zaken natuurlijk.
Practical matters, what goes where, which facilities we can use. They were the questions during the first few days, she says. Now we think about the people. Are they ready to work? How will employees react to this situation? Because for many, it will be the first time they're returning. For affected passengers, regional airports in Antwerp and Liège are only offering limited capacity as an alternative. Brussels Airlines is running up €5 million in daily costs. Lufthansa has cancelled all flights to Brussels until Sunday. The number of people killed at the airport and here at Malbec metro station has been revised down to 32, excluding the suicide bombers. That after the double counting of 3 people with dual nationality. Meanwhile, police are still hunting a third man seen on airport CCTV on the day of the bombings, after a suspect was freed.
The Brussels bombings came just 4 months after that deadly night in Paris. 2 high-profile terrorist attacks in such a short period could have more dramatic consequences for tourism in Europe. After the 13th of November, many countries raised their security levels. There's been endless media coverage of the police raids before and after the lockdown in Brussels around Christmas. According to Belgian broadcaster VRT, every day that the city was closed down, it cost over €50 million. That is why the travel industry in Belgium and Europe overall is going to take time to recover. Although tourism experts know that the travel business has become more resilient to attacks over the last 15 years.
After Brussels, the question's being asked, how long does it take for people to return to a place after a terrorist attack? In January, a suicide bomber killed 12 Germans near Istanbul's Blue Mosque. Turkey's tourism revenue is predicted to tumble by nearly 11 billion euros this year. Not many thinking like this Colombian visitor at the time.
I just have one day left, but if I was staying longer, I would stay. I don't think terrorism should take the hold of us, and then we should be brave about it.
It's estimated French hotels lost 270 million euros from cancelled bookings after last November's Paris attacks. The head of Accor, Europe's largest hotel group, said the effect would probably last 3 to 4 months, but that was before Brussels. This is the take of one American tourist last November.
Unfortunately, people are getting so used to terrorism in our society that people are not going to change their lives for terrorism. I mean, they might do it temporarily, but over time, I think people just realize they have to live their lives and they have to move on and go about their daily life, and I think tourists will do the same.
Tourism industry analysts concur, seeing recovery time shortening significantly. In New York after 9/11 in 2001, hotel occupancy levels took almost 3 years to get back to where they were previously, but following the 2001 bombings here at Madrid's Atocha station, they were back after 1 year. And in London, following the 7/7 attacks, it was 9 months.
It might be too early to estimate the cost of the attacks in Brussels on tourism, but what we can do is analyse how important it is for Belgium and Europe. Europe's tourism industry makes up about 10% of the region's economy. That's according to the World Travel and Tourism Council. As one of the world's most visited regions, Europe accounts for around half of all international tourist arrivals. That's around 500 million people. Last year, over 12.5 million Americans travelled to Europe. Out of the total of 12.6 million, over half crossed the Atlantic between April and September. That is the peak European vacation season that traditionally starts at Easter. After the attacks in Brussels, as in November, millions rushed to open up Facebook and Twitter to check on friends, to offer help and to share support. Even the local authorities were encouraging people to communicate through social media. But it appears technology doesn't always unite people. This is it. This is IT.
When I was a kid, my parents told me to keep away from bad company. Now, someone should have said that to Tay, the latest victim, albeit a robotic one, of the dark side of the net. Tay was an artificial intelligence-powered chatbot developed by Microsoft to engage young people in conversations on Twitter. Basically a robot that imitates humans. You say, "How are you?" and it answers, "Fine, thanks." I say was because last week's experiment went incredibly wrong. In less than a day, Tay tweets went from cheerful posts like "humans are super cool" to anti-Semitic, racist and sexist invectives. What happened? Humans happened. Tay was designed to become smarter as more users interacted with it. After the account was flooded with hateful comments from people with too much time on their hands, it started mimicking them. Not only did it repeat trash talking, in some cases it even developed its own bad behavior and said inappropriate things completely unprompted. Microsoft intervened by deleting most of Tay's tweets and by silencing its creation. In a blog post, the company apologized and blamed the incident on a coordinated attack by a subset of people. Still, the episode does make us wonder about the future. Will AIs eventually manage to learn right from wrong? That was it. That was IT.
That was it for now. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week.